this one in uno momento for you guys, but the bans that have come out is Druid and Warlock for these two guys. So Sottle's Druid has been banned and the Warlock from Raven has been banned as well, but I believe the mulligan is well underway here.
So I know for a fact that Raven brought the classic Sea Giant Zoo Warlock deck, and I imagine that would be a normal combo Druid coming out from Sottle. I don't think that would be anything fancy like the Egg Druid that you sometimes see on ladder. So
it looks like Sottle has brought a Patron Warrior. I am not at all surprised because Sottle is renowned for being a Patron Warrior player. He drops the emote there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Raven follows up with a nice threat and some nice friendly banter going on between these two.
And here we go. It is Face Hunter for Raven at this point in time, and there is good tools here to deal with the Face Hunter in Sottle's opening hand. He's got 2 unstable ghouls, which traditionally you see a lot of 1 health minions inside of on the side of Face Hunter, but look, Glaivezuka in hand for Raven here. He can very quickly deal with this unstable ghoul.
I mean, that's probably the play he's going to go for. I was going to say you could consider using the Owl, but I mean, you probably want to save that for some Patron removal or something of the sort. I mean, we didn't see any Frothing Berserkers in the deck of Hello Leroy's earlier when he was playing the Patron. If you want to know how to play a Patron deck, watch Sottle. He knows absolutely everything about this deck. He constantly streams it. He says himself it's his favourite deck. He was very unhappy when it was nerfed, as we mentioned earlier. So this should be a masterclass of how to play Patron. But he's coming up against a Face Warrior, which is always difficult to beat.
We just have some Skype issues there, as you can see coming up on the screen. He goes for the. This is traditionally how you play. This is traditionally how you play the Patron Warrior. Now you play the on-curve Frothing Berserker because you really are playing more like a mid-range deck where having things on curve matter a little bit more. Cochrane Elite though off the top can deal immediately with that taunt. But he may not go for it. He may go for the Armorsmith Whirlwind Execute play as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great play. You can get some immediate damage. The Berserker just gets bigger and starts to put immediate threat onto the Hunter.
I mean, what else are you going to execute on the Hunter deck anyway? So
that's a very good point. I mean, like, you're not going to do it on a Hound, are you? It's a 1/1, maybe a Juggler, just to get rid of it. But I think that's a solid play, and you've spotted that nice and early. He's going to throw the Execute down. And
you still get a 5 damage Frothing Berserker from this as well. So actually you're now starting to put pressure on this Face Hunter.
You are indeed. And that's very important against Face Hunter, is to try and start that race, if you know what I mean. Like, that you've got to try and race the Face Hunter, because if you start trading too much, the face race. If you start trading too much, that's when the Face Hunter really thrives and they can start to put the damage into you.
The issue here is he could coin Unleash the Hounds, he could also silence, and there's no card draw really in hand.
That's what I was about to bring up. Is it's looking great right now, but what happens if this board does get cleared? You're kind of just living off the top deck.
Yeah, I think that. There we go.
That's the answer.
Speaking of top decks,
top deck. Munch is the he's the king of calling the top decks for these players, and that's going to be a 3 card draw here. I quite like trading into the Haunted Creeper, playing your Unstable Ghoul, hoping there's no other Owl. Yes,
I think that's a solid play. It also means that Unleash the Hounds isn't likely to come down because they're just going to get cleared.
Yep.
So I think that's probably a solid play. The Acolyte of Pain though is a good decision because you can get more card draw, and as we know in Grim Patron, getting to those patrons can be essential, but not always needed, as we saw in our last series.
I also quite like maybe leaving the Unstable Ghoul for when you have patrons on board, because you know you're going to flood the board with patrons, and you know you're likely going to face a full Unleash the Hounds. Having that Unstable Ghoul on board means that Unleash the Hounds becomes less effective unless the Face Hunter can deal with it before playing that card. But look at this. This is a lower Theb in a Face Hunter deck.
Yeah, I mean, that's not your traditional Face Hunter deck with a lower Theb in. This is quite interesting. You've caught me off guard there. I wasn't expecting that.
I remember looking at this deck list now. This has triggered my memory. He also runs a Dr. Boom.
Okay, so it's a kind of face / mid-range hunter /
hybrid.
That's the word I was looking for, Joe.
I've got your back, buddy.
The hybrid hunter was massive in late 2015, but this doesn't seem. It's not the kind of hybrid deck that we're used to seeing.
Certainly sort of a new iteration of it. A whole lot of card draw coming out here for the side of Sottle. He's going to be pretty happy with that one, but he has lost complete board control. So What's the play here from the side of Sottle? Do you just drop down a taunt?
I say play Death's Bite, armor up potentially. You kill the Knife Juggler now, and then armor up, and then you can deal with the Haunted Creeper next turn because your Death Rattle will proc after that Haunted Creeper's Death Rattle.
That's a solid play. And you're kind of hoping for a Patron top deck as well. That would kind of complete the puzzle.
And you've got to remember that Face Hunter actually has 0 draw apart from Quick Shot on its deck, so you're relying entirely on your top decks from this point in time since you've blown your entire hand.
Lower Theb coming out here. Lower Theb interesting with Sottle because a lot of people say low Theb, and Sottle is one of these players that kind of says, no, it's lower Theb. And he tells people off.
So I'm trying to think
rightly so. It's spelled lower Theb.
It's spelled lower Theb.
I think the Cochrane Elite comes into play here, right? Because what you do, you play Cochrane Elite, Frothing Berserker, you kill the Haunted Creeper, then kill lower Theb with your Cochrane Elite, and then you have a very, very difficult Frothing Berserker to deal with, or rather, we know the Eagle Horn Bones in hand, but you don't have that luxury.
Can we call it Cochrane Elite?
Yeah, it is Cochrane Elite, not Cochrane Elite.
Oh, sorry, I always get that wrong. My bad. And I'm not trying to make the stream sound kind of seedy. No. But this is also a good play. Then it keeps your board slightly more healthy. Actually,
it completely clears the board. Yeah. It makes a massive Frothing Berserker.
I was just wondered about because you do take slightly more face damage. I guess with only 1 card in hand and you now have an 11 damage Frothing Berserker, you're not so bothered about that, right?
This is. Oh, I was gonna say this is awkward for Raven. He is gonna get that Arcane Golem to clear away from that Frothing Berserker. I was about to say, depending on what he drew, do you then use that Eagle Humpo into the Berserker just to get rid of it and sacrifice the 11 damage, but it ended up not being a factor in the end. But now, no cards in hand for Raven. This is maybe looking a little bit dicey.
You need to race now. And also, look at this. You can just Grommash and then Inner Rage. Yeah.
And that's instantly, 16 damage? That's hard to take as a hunter, especially when you've got no cards in hand. And I think this is going to be all she wrote for Raven. I don't see a way back into this for him.
It's one of the...
But an Explosive Trap might save him.
No. Yeah, he concedes straight up. Again, Patron, I think, is one of the better decks you can play into Face Hunter because you do have those tools to deal with the early threats, like that Frothing Berserker that needs to be dealt with, like Death's Bite, which can provide that 1 damage Whirlwind, which deals with probably 80% of the Face Hunter's minions. That last play where we saw him choose to Cochrane Elite and obviously just build that huge Frothing Berserker, far better than the play I suggested, because obviously I then, with my play, you get less damage on your Frothing Berserker and you lose your Cochrane Elite in the process, but you just take a little bit less face damage. But then I'm quite a conservative player in the sense that if I was playing Face Hunter, I would be slightly worried about some sort of crazy quick shot kill command shenanigans that could potentially come out. So yeah, very well played by Sottle, and you had a complete demonstration of what you told us just during that intro to that game, that the guy's a master of Patron Warrior.
He is. I mean, everything went right for him. He had the right draws, and Raven kind of struggled with his draws there. I wouldn't have been surprised if Raven has brought a deck to counter a kind of Grim Patron deck, and now that's just going to go completely out of the window. But I don't know if maybe Sottle kind of banned a champion to try and force all that.
Anything can happen deck, if that is the deck that he will play, is pretty good against the Patron Warrior, but obviously the Patron Warrior has won now, so that takes it off the board anyway, so we're kind of not worried about countering the Patron Warrior because it's gone.
Yeah. So the remaining 2 decks now for Sottle are Shaman and Warlock. Those are the 2 that he's got.
I know what Shaman that's going to be. It'll likely be face Shaman. There is a slight uprising of mid-range Shaman coming back on the meta right now, but the most consistent deck that you can play is face Shaman, in the sense that it works very similar to Face Hunter, but you rely more on spells other than minions, so you're not even really worried about board presence as a face Shaman, because as long as you turn 5 Doomhammer, you've practically won the game. So.
I mean, that's interesting. So that's face Shaman, that's Face Hunter. So is that from Raven or Sottle?
This is Sottle.
Oh, this is Sottle.
He's got Shaman and Warlock left.
Okay, so probably a Zoolock.
Zoolock, yeah.
I mean, I'm going to hedge my bets there and say it's probably a Zoolock. Solid against most things. That's what he's gone for. He said, right, I'm going to bring 3 decks that can pretty much beat anything.
And I think that's a good way to play, especially when you're not quite sure what the competition's going to be like. If you bring 3 decks that on their draws, on their day, will literally beat anything you throw at them, giving yourself the best chance for success here. I'm hoping to see the Face Shaman come out, because what have we got left for Raven?
For Raven, we've got Hunter, Mage, and Paladin. Those are the 3 decks that he's bringing. So
which one got banned? Was it the...
it was a Warlock that was banned from Raven, Druid that was banned from Sottle.
I'm guessing because this is tournament play, we're more likely to see Freeze Mage than Tempo Mage. Tempo Mage far too dependent on the draws to make it viable. Tempo Mage is one of those games that you play over an extended period of time because you know that more often than not you're going to get the draws that you need. But on a one-off occasion, if you don't draw like turn 1 Mana Worm, turn 2 the Mad Scientist, you just have no comeback mechanics. It plays exactly to its namesake in the sense that if you don't have Tempo on board, your deck sucks.
So you're thinking Freeze Mage and maybe Murloc Paladin.
I think I know it's Murloc Paladin because I remember looking at the decks. I think it's Freeze Mage. I'm not sure which of the variations of Freeze Mage it is because there are 2 that are popular right now: the one with Antonidas and one without Antonidas.
Yeah.
But we've seen a lot of without Antonidas so far, obviously from Hello Leroy. I wouldn't mind Sottle queuing up Face Shame into either of these. If it is indeed Face Shaman, I wouldn't mind Sottle queuing up into either of those. I think it has the best shot.
All right, well, Mulligan is underway. We're ready to get into this matchup. It is Sottle up against Raven. And obviously, that Patron Warrior already been used, but the Mulligan is underway. Let's take a look at what we've got going on here. So, we've got a Novice Engineer coming out here. That's obviously going to be pretty decent for Raven. Would you keep that in your starting hand, or would you opt to look for something else?
Well, I think it's a solid 2-drop. It's going to guarantee you card draw and
deal with some of the 1 health minions.
I mean, that's a pretty nice kind of starting hand there as a Freeze Mage. Some would argue maybe you get rid of the Frostbolt and Forgotten Torch because you don't want to use that as removal, but against the Face Shaman, you need to get rid of some of these minions.
So Sottle has done something very clever here that I think that some people may not consider. Doomhammer is so crucial to your play style that you keep it in your mulligan. It's a bit like sometimes keeping a Reno in a Reno deck. It's so crucial to your playstyle on turn 5 that you get it. And he's also got the Leper Gnome on turn 1. I quite like keeping the Roaring Torch because this is going to be the non-Antonidas version of the Freeze Mage, and you use that Roaring Torch as removal, and then later on that Roaring Torch you use as a face or, a burn spell.
And it is going to come into play with the Flame Juggler here. I like the inclusion of Flame Juggler. I've seen it in a few Shaman decks recently. It wasn't that popular, and then suddenly everyone said actually the kind of extra 1 damage that it produces can be key. Interestingly, the Acolyte Pain is dropped rather than the instant removal.
So do you mind here, I guess, in my opinion, I probably would totem and then get rid of that Acolyte Pain with 1 Lightning Bolt because you overload for turn 4, but you don't overload for... Oh, you could Earthshock as well, but then coin Doomhammer next turn, actually.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking he's probably not going to overload just because of that coin Doomhammer. And getting the Doomhammer out early, especially having a Rockbiter in hand as well, that's going to be key against
10 damage in 1 turn, you know. He could win this in the next 3 turns with the right draws here. Realistically, he's got 10 damage plus. He's got 16 damage in hand.
Plus, if he gets a spell totem, then that's another 2 damage.
Yes, it is. Ice Block already out now for Raven.
I might actually save his life, considering the hand that we've got coming out right now for the likes of Sottle. We'll see whether he continues to get this damage in hand, though, because the thing is, while he's got a lot of damage in hand, he doesn't have anything left in the way of minions, aside from the totems he's going to pop with his...
Lava Burst as well.
Even more damage.
There we go, here's the coin.
I don't know whether he needs any minions. That's the thing now.
That's the beauty of Face Shaming. You don't need minions, and he's probably not even going to trade at this point. He's not worried about the 1 damage that will be chipping away at him turn after turn.
Well, I mean, minions can play an important part in some games, but against Freeze Mage, they don't really have any minions to play, so you don't really have to worry about any taunts getting in the way. You're only going to play into the Freeze Mage's hands if you put minions on board because of the removal and the delay and the freezes that the Freeze Mage has.
He's actually going to use the 2 damage to clear that. I guess he's saying, I force you to ping.
He's saying, use 2 mana to ping, plus he's then got more control of his totems. If that 1/1 is on board, he's not going to get it if he re-rolls his totem.
It gives him a 25% chance instead of a...
Ooh, stat man.
Sorry, gives him a 33% chance instead of a 25% chance of getting that spell damage totem.
Yes. And the Doomsayer coming down there isn't really going to affect anything with no minions on the board. I mean, it's a shame because you probably would play a Feral Spirit here, but you could just put 10 damage.
Do you do this and then play a totem?
Lightning Bolt.
You could double Lightning Bolt for sure, or do you just play a totem?
Well, the totem's just going to die.
Yeah, that's very true, double Lightning Bolt. But then you overload yourself for
2.
For 2, and then next turn
you've got Feral Spirit.
Yeah, do it, I guess. Because then you've got Lava Burst next turn, and then you have Lethal, right?
Yeah, I believe so. That's 9 damage next turn.
So that forces the Ice Block to come out. Really? Raven's going to be starting to worry here. This is what I said earlier. When you're playing Freeze Mage against an aggro deck, you really start to panic and you start to worry, and you really want to put those secrets on board.
Double secrets, though, is going to buy him some time.
But it's, what, 1 turn time? He can proc next. No, okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Ice Barrier. I was thinking it's all spell damage, but of course, the Doom Hammer.
Double
there's another Lava Burst. That's...
Do you just...
Not mana efficient, though.
No, not for sure. Do you just Lava Burst here and then try and proc without... then hope you draw a Crackle at some point?
I think not Doom Hammering here is probably the play. I think just putting 5 damage in and then just leaving him on 3. I think you're right. I don't think you want to burst this Ice Barrier.
But I mean, you've got to think about what you've got left in your deck. You've used 2 burn spells already. You've used 2 lightning bolts.
See, the thing is about not proccing the Ice Barrier is, I mean, what do you do then next turn? You Lava Burst and it still just procs the Ice Barrier.
No, it doesn't proc Ice Barrier. Spell damage won't proc Ice Barrier.
Sorry, not Ice Barrier. I mean Ice Block, not Ice Barrier.
Then you proc the Ice Block and you force the hand and hope that Raven doesn't have another Ice Block. But just getting these Ice Blocks out of the way, there is so much spell damage in this Shaman deck that you can rely on it. But this is what he's considering now. He's saying, okay, I've got another Rock Biter which can do 10 damage.
Because given his hand right now, if he procs the Ice Barrier, he doesn't have damage in hand to proc that Ice Block.
Yeah.
As it stands. Well, he's actually going to Totemic Cool and proc the Ice Block. Okay.
Proc the Ice Barrier.
Ice Barrier, yeah. Ice Barrier.
So that'll take a nice 4 off, and then the 5 will drop him down. And I mean, I can understand that play because you don't want to make your Doom Hammer irrelevant. You kind of want to be using it that extra 4 damage per turn, especially if you can top deck a Rock Biter or something like that.
The card draw for the Freeze Mage is pretty low right now as well. He's actually going to freeze the face of Sottle.
Well, that's going to keep him in the game, that's for sure. I mean, he's 1 turn away. In fact, no, next turn he can Alexstrasza as well. So do you then use that to just heal yourself?
He can actually
use that aggressively?
He can proc
the Ice Block now.
Exactly.
With double Lava Burst and Abusive Sergeant.
He can proc it exactly. And
so
then
you Lava Burst, then Abusive Sergeant, your Totem to proc it, and then he's on 2 health.
And then you have the Doom Hammer, and you've got to hope there's no more freeze.
Yeah.
Or you can draw Crackle and hope he doesn't have another Ice Block.
But Alexstrasza is sitting in the hand of Raven at just 8 mana, so he could bring himself back up to 15.
Which seems the most likely play, because how many tools in the face Shaman deck is there going to be to deal with an 8/8?
Exactly.
He could just win this through board presence. It really depends on how this plays out, because there should be 15 points of burst still left in the deck of Sottle, but he has no card draw at this point in time.
And just bringing yourself back up to 15, usually when you're using Alexstrasza in this way as a Freeze Mage, you're playing against a deck that has got a lot of board control. But because the Shaman's just been putting in so much spell damage, there's really no board presence there. I mean, that's what now, if you hit a Crackle for 6, that's 10, 12 damage.
So, yeah.
So he has to play the Feral Spirits here, really. And just go face, I guess.
Yeah. He's going to ping that 2/1 next turn for sure. This just buys him time, essentially. Because this is what he needs now. He needs time to top deck something that's going to give him a chance of proccing, or getting the kill, rather.
I wouldn't be surprised if he were to ping his own Blood Mage.
I wouldn't be surprised if he Frostbolts as well, because this means he gets 13 damage into... Yeah. This is the play, I think. He's just going to go straight in and say, I have 2 huge minions on the board.
So what does Sottle need here? He's got a Crackle that could do 6 damage.
Another Crackle.
So another Crackle would do it, but he's used both Lightning Bolts, he's used both Lava Bursts. Yeah. Flame Juggler's not going to be enough.
He's dead now.
This is... Yeah, that's over.
He could crackle
the Emperor, yeah.
Could Crackle the Emperor to keep him alive, but then...
I don't think that actually keeps him in the game, though, does it? I mean, what do you top deck then to get rid of Alexstrasza?
You're running a 50-50 here right now. You're running, if you go for the Emperor, that's a 50-50 that you win the game, or 50-50 that you do. I mean, you have to do it, right?
You have to. There's no other option. Knowing Sottle and his RNG luck, this is going to hit for about 4. Oh,
5,
he hits for 5.
Exactly.
That going face is actually...
But the Freeze Mage only needs to pull a piece of burn from his deck, which we know he has quite a bit of. He's probably just going to use that, right? It just clears board.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You could even...
I don't know if there's anything that the Shaman can do.
You could trade him first for the card draw and then Blizzard instead of...
Yeah, try and win the game.
Using it for 3.
There we go.
There we go. He should draw burn at some point, right? There you go. Roaring Torch, that's lethal.
And a Fireball.
Yeah.
And that Emperor Thracian into the Alexstrasza just seemed to be the kind of right play there, and that worked out really well for Raven. He's going to tie that series up 1-1.
Yeah, so the first ever tie that we've had in the ESL UK Premiership. So 1-1 is the score now, and at the start of the game, going off the starting hand, it really looked to be in Sottle's favour. He had so much damage available to him, but Raven pretty much managing to hang on by the skin of his teeth there, and then Alexstrasza healing him up. It was kind of Sottle just ran out of steam, it felt like.
I'm kind of wondering at this point in time, I don't know, I can't remember the exact turn, but if he hadn't procced that ice barrier, would he maybe have got through with that crackle before the Alexstrasza came through?
That extra damage, yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, do you not proc it because you can take out the ice block in 2 turns? And then the crackle was there. I mean,
I'm trying to work out
sure
which
mathematically he would have, because even though he procced it, he then did use an extra 4 damage
I think he drew the crackle after the Alexstrasza
I think he drew the crackle the turn before the Alexstrasza was played.
Possibly.
As far as I'm aware. I'm just wondering whether the overload may have meant that he wouldn't have had enough mana to actually use that full burst through anyway. I mean, end of the day, it's irrelevant because well played by Raven. You know, I've been in that situation versus Face Hunters, for instance, where you have Alexstrasza in hand, you use that Thorus, and you get to the point where you are down to 1 health. You'll die to Hunter hero power next turn. Use Alexstrasza in yourself. They don't have the tools in their deck to deal with an 8/8. And it ends up just doing so much damage as a minion on board, and you basically win through board presence, which is because they just can't deal with these huge minions that you've got.
And I think that was a very good game for Raven to win. Just to get that win with the Freeze Mage, some of the other decks he might not have been able to win so easily against. Especially a Face Shaman, it has got that burst damage. It really can take down a Freeze Mage very well. So it's a great performance from Raven there.
Absolutely, and here we go. That's the Mage and the Warrior both out of the running, but for this one we're going to have Hunter up against Shaman. So Sottle going to be running again with this aggro Shaman.
Face Hunter.
Look at that starting hand for the Hunter right there. That is...
Oh, that's
this
saucy.
Is the dream.
Do you get rid of one of the scientists? No. Just keep both.
Damn, Raven back at it again with the mad scientists.
That's just what you want to see as a Hunter, really. And this is the kind of battle that I've wanted to see for a while, the Face Shaman versus Face Hunter. You don't really see it on ladder anymore because Face Shaman has kind of dominated the ladder scene, Face Hunter's kind of dropped. But realistically, Face Shaman versus Face Hunter, who do you favour here?
Right now, based on the hands, I definitely favour the Face Hunter.
I mean, the Shaman has the removal, right?
But the thing is, you don't want to use it as removal.
No, you don't, exactly.
You don't. I think whoever kind of starts trading is going to lose this game. I think they've both got to say, right, I'm going to keep going face.
It's like
whoever
a game of
backs
chicken.
down first, yeah, exactly. Whoever backs down first is probably going to lose this.
So we know that the Flame Juggler can go down here, and I think trading is all right in this situation if you actually want to. You could just play a double 1-drop as well. I actually don't even mind trading in this situation where you know that you actually want to save as much face damage as well as possible.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
I think he is going to trade here.
No, with that 4 damage,
he's
just going to go face. Every point of damage is going to matter in this scenario, right? So you don't want to waste a singular point of damage. He's going to trade into this.
He's going to crack first.
He needs to though, because he didn't have a turn 1 play and he's already behind because of the coin.
Do you then play the Argent Horse Rider? Play that into the Scientist? If you're going to go for the trading, do you go to try and clear board?
You know it's likely going to be an explosive trap, so you trade that Argent Horse Rider into the Scientist, that's dead on board. It's going to be just a trading tool at that point, and you can't trade it into a stealth Worgen until that unstealth. So yeah, I think it's a viable play, but it's a losing play in my opinion.
The explosive trap can really make or break this matchup. And I agree with that player. I like that he's gone face down. I mean, look at the amount of damage that is in Sottle's hand already. Potentially, there's 17 damage there, even more if he was to have a totem. So he's got that burst already. I think key here could be if he gets a Doomhammer.
Yeah, the Doomhammer is going to be key. He's behind on board. He's just got huge amounts of burn in his hand, but he needs that Doomhammer to be effective. Now, this could be pretty telling.
If Flame Juggler hits the Leponomia, that's massive.
That's massive because he's got an Ancestral Knowledge as a portion of card draw in his hand, and he's got a huge amount of burst, and then can kind of in some way maintain a bit of board presence because you're going to have to charge both your Mad Scientist and your weapon charge to deal with a 2/3 Flame Juggler, but you're looking at a 33% chance to potentially win the game. or at least put yourself in a good position to go on to win the game.
And I call him face juggler because he always hits face.
Okay, now he's doing a 50-50 chance. I quite like this.
And it's gonna hit face because it's face juggler.
No!
Gets it.
That's really good for ball control. Ball control for Sottle.
Four board. You could have just said four board control.
Yeah, I know.
No one would have noticed.
So I would just say Mad Scientist hero power. You really want to weave as many hero powers in as you can when you're playing Face Hunter, because it's obviously Migo Face. Migo Face.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, Mad Scientist hero power certainly seems like the play. When do you think this Ancestral Knowledge comes out right now? Because, I mean, you've got Lava Burst and Crackle in hand to clear away minions, but, I mean, Lava Burst, as Face Shaman, it hurts to have to use that on a minion. So do you just now use Ancestral Knowledge just to try and get more cards in hand so you have more options to yourself?
I personally like to leave Ancestral Knowledge for when I'm trying to draw for lethal, or when I'm in absolute desperate need of card draw. If that's all I've got in my hand, then of course I'm going to use it.
I, on the other hand, I wouldn't want to show that I have two burn spells in hand. I kind of like to leave them for lethal.
Yep.
So I would personally use the Ancestral Knowledge sooner rather than later, especially with Lava Shock as well.
With the Lava Shock in hand now, it becomes a little bit more viable, because you can kind of get rid of that overload.
Because what you can do here is you can Ancestral Knowledge and Lava Shock the Mad Scientist, and then you just proc the Explosive Trap now so that you maintain a 2-1 on board, right?
That's a good play. I like that play. What if it's Freezing Trap?
I don't like procking it first, because then you kill the Mad Scientist and he gets a... Or at least maybe you just don't kill the Mad Scientist, but I feel like if you do then choose to kill the Mad Scientist, he just gets another trap.
You're giving him another secret.
You're just giving him another secret. I do like the Ancestral Knowledge now, I just don't like the way he's done it. Do you Finley Mergleton and search for the Priest Hero power though?
So would you say that the Priest Hero power is more important?
I actually probably would take... Well, I mean, you're behind in health total, right? But you know you've got a huge amount of burst in hand. Maybe you go for the Hunter Hero power if possible. You definitely wouldn't take the Warlock Hero power. See, this is... I don't particularly like that. Because you've just given him another free secret, right?
You have, yeah.
But I mean, realistically, he definitely could have gone for that secret next turn anyway. He could have easily just traded it in.
Yeah,
the Priest Hero power does come out, by
if he had killed the Scientist... I mean, can we confirm... Is it another explosive?
It is another explosive.
Okay.
So
I mean, the only thought process I can imagine, Sottle was thinking, if I kill it, it's just gonna proc a freezing trap.
Because this could be his demise now. He's gonna have to take another 2 damage for face, right? I think you have to take that risk as a Face Hunter. You probably think they are going to be running Explosive Trap. That was a misplay, because you've given him another secret for free, and it's another 2 damage to your face that you're going to receive. And you don't have lethal in this turn, based on spells alone. You're going to have to attack him with these minions at some point, unless you're literally using them for board clear.
So he must have been thinking that there was perhaps a freezing trap. Must have, but that's the only thought process
we did see some Face Hunters tech in, but that's the point. It was a tech in. It wasn't a bolt standard of the Face Hunter deck.
But these players know each other very well.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
Sottle.
True. Yeah,
I know Raven plays a lot of Hybrid Hunter, a lot of mid-range Hunter. He tries Control Hunter. He loves his Hunter decks. If you were to ask him, he'd probably say, "Yeah, Hunter's one of my favorite decks." So maybe Sottle did think he usually runs this freezing trap as well. So, but you're right. It was a misplay, and it could cost him the game.
Well, looks like he's just going face at this point. He's looking for his way to end the game. I mean, maybe, should he draw Doomhammer, this could potentially be a way in. If his next 2 draws are like Doomhammer, Rockbite,
the issue with Doomhammer is he's going to have to proc the Explosive Trap now anyway. You can see that he doesn't want to proc it with his minions. He's going to use those purely for board control.
He can lower Theb here, hit for 5 damage, take the Shaman down to 8. Kill command in hand and the 5 damage of the lower Theb on board is potentially lethal.
I mean, we know that he can deal with it with Abusive Sergeant.
Yes, we know.
We know, but
well,
he doesn't
now
know.
even.
But you as Sottle now, you're going to want to weave in as many Priest Hero powers as physically possible. So you probably hear Abusive Sergeant clear the lower Theb and then just heal yourself, right?
But then, how does that win you the game? Are you just delaying the inevitable?
Next turn you play Argent Horse Rider, you proc the Explosive Trap on the sense that you still maintain a bit of board.
I mean, the Argent Horse Rider coming down to proc the Explosive Trap is massive. Like, that's what you want. If you want to proc it with anything,
and then you pray. Then after that you pray for top decks.
You pray to RNGesus.
And we all know that RNGesus isn't kind to us mere Hearthstone players.
In theory, If he was to get another Crackle, that's potentially 14 damage, which still isn't enough.
No, but he has got another Love Burst in hand.
Fight, maggot!
But I'm just thinking to win next turn.
He won't win next turn for sure, right? But then neither will Raven at this point. He hasn't got a beast to give the full kill command. Leponome's good.
Coming off the top. I mean,
If the Knife Juggler hits abusive as well.
Oh, that goes face.
How
theory-
crucial is that going to prove to be?
Another Crackle could win him the game. Could it not? 6, 12, 14. Oh.
I like the Ancestral Knowledge here. So you obviously kill the Knife Juggler.
Oh, Feral
Spirit.
Spirit.
Double
That
Feral
might
Spirit.
actually save his life right here.
He could probably...
You could just play 2. I mean,
you overload
all you're
for
avoiding
4.
right now is the kill command damage and obviously hero power, which isn't enough to kill you next turn.
But do you want to get Do you want to get hero power in this
But
turn?
actually, if you consider the Leponome can trade in for 2 damage, if you get a beast out,
Yep.
that's like a 1-drop. You've got lethal.
You've got
next
lethal
turn.
there.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I mean, do you want to get hero power in surely as Sottle at this point in time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you...
Do you just Feral Spirit and hero power?
I would say Feral
There's
Spirit
not
and
really
hero power.
much leeway, I don't think.
Sottle will know that is a kill command.
Yeah.
That card has been sat in Raven's hand for quite a while now.
You don't keep a card in a Face Hunter hand.
Abusive Sergeant isn't going to be enough.
Help him deal with one of the taunts.
It will.
Get in there!
This is actually not looking bad for
There's
for
definitely
Sottle.
room for Sottle to win the game off a top deck.
He needs a beast. I think that's his answer, his remaining answer now.
You don't...
But the heals are going to consistently keep coming out here.
Yeah, they just counteract the
They
Hunter
counteract
hero
the Hunter
power.
hero power, so it's just you're in a status quo.
Yeah.
The issue for me is that Sottle can't attack with this. Sottle cannot attack with this Feral Spirit because
I wonder.
he then puts himself down to 7, which is basically a kill command Hunter hero power lethal. So you can never attack now, and he's actually going to get the kill command on this.
I can see why he's done that play, because he's concerned that there's more spell power, more spell damage in the hand of Sottle.
Doomhammer.
He can't play it. He has to play another Feral Spirit and heal himself. Because he knows it's explosive trap, right?
I think Feral Spirit heal is a good play. It puts you back up to 9. You've still got the Crackle and the Horse Rider in hand, which is potentially 8 damage. If you were to get another Crackle, that's potentially 14 damage, and you've got 2/3s on the board already.
Haunted Creeper.
That's not going to help at all.
If he just held his kill command, he could have put some serious
He
pressure
just
on.
needed to wait for a beast to come out.
Because what pressure has he been under Sottle so far? I guess he's worried that there's a 15 damage burst coming through.
So now do you play the Doomhammer? Because you can still Doomhammer and heal on top of it.
Well, I know for sure that you trade one of these.
You could play Horse Rider here as well to just kill minions. I mean, if you get rid of the Creeper,
I think you have to get rid of the
You've gotta
Creeper.
get
the
rid of
one
because
ones
of the
can't
kill
deal with a
command.
Feral Spirit on their own.
I think getting rid of the Creeper is important for the kill command, but the kill command won't win him the game. He can only do 7 damage. He can't get past these taunts.
If he procs explosive trap, and he doesn't.
Oh, sorry,
deal
I couldn't see the explosive trap. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, if he procs explosive trap and he doesn't deal with the Haunted Creeper,
Then he's in danger, because he can only heal up to 7, and the hero power.
this is a really awful situation for. This is an awful situation for Sottle to be in, right? Because if he deals with the Haunted Creeper with one of his Feral Spirits, and there's 3 tokens on board, and then you receive 3 damage to face anyway.
So a kill command off
He's
the top.
basically saying right
could-
now, my fate is in the Hearthstone God's hands.
Ooh.
So he's got 6
No,
damage.
it's not enough
It's not
damage.
enough damage. It's not enough. It's 6 damage, right?
And that pretty much
That
will
seals-
seal it.
that's
for-
pretty much sealing
for
it, yeah.
Sottle, surely.
Yeah,
There you
he's
go.
got Crackle, he's got Horse Rider. That I think it is game.
Okay, Sottle played around that explosive trap for a very long time. In my opinion, I feel like he didn't need to, because he could have just
Wasn't
not
earlier.
given him the explosive trap regardless. But there you are, even the Rock Biter as well.
Just to add
He
insult,
knows he's won, and he's
salt
gonna-
into the wounds right there.
Yeah,
I think,
throw a
I
rock
feel.
biter down.
1 HP victory as well, so certainly not one that came easily. But he'll definitely be happy with that one, and that is going to make the series 2-1 to Sottle now. So,
And the battle of
I mean, look at the faces as well. This is complete composure. Neither of these guys is particularly overwhelmed by that loss or by that victory.
I think, they are so used to being calm and composed on camera. Unlike us, we're all over the place. These guys are so used to being calm and composed on camera that this is not going to faze them. They're used to being seen, on stream. And
they don't want to give too much reaction. They don't want to try and give anything away to their viewers. They don't want to
let's remember
upset.
as well, this is wizard poker. So
this is wizard poker.
You've got to keep that poker face on when clearly these two
They actually look like they're in the same room from the webcam.
It did look a little bit like that, actually. So maybe they're just so deadly.
Other side of the table.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think they are both casting at LAN event this weekend, so they might be in the same room for all I know.
Yeah, they are casting at LAN event this weekend. Yeah, I think so.
Well, there they are. Maybe they're across and they're just kind of staring each other down.
They might actually be like next to each other, like twisted monitors away from each other, like
proper old school.
Yeah, like a bedroom
They're
lamp.
like dead facing each other, not to give anything away.
Staring each other down. Well,
And that was a great game.
Yeah.
I mean, I said I wanted to see Face Shaman versus Face Hunter, and it was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. Actually, I thought it was just going to be a matter of I'm going to keep going Face, you're going to keep going Face, whoever gets their first wins. But there was a lot more to think about. There was a couple of misplays, maybe, like you said.
I think Raven was definitely unlucky not to draw any of his direct damage, but when you look at these two matchup, when you get into that status quo period I think that Priest Hero Power was absolutely vital for the win as well. Without that Priest Hero Power, he wouldn't have won the game. He could have taken the Warrior Hero Power as well, but
I actually think the biggest factor in that game was using the kill command before a beast came out. I think having saved that and used it on Face when a beast came out actually would have sealed the game.
It would have done.
It would have, because he got him to 1 damage at the end, and
with that Arcane Golem, that would have gotten him the game. I guess he was just so worried. I mean, look, you had the explosive trap up, right? So I wouldn't have actually been worried about that 2 damage from the Feral Spirit. But we are into the next game, ladies and gentlemen.
We are indeed, and it looks like it is going to be Warlock, the remaining deck for Sottle, and it's going to be up against this Paladin from Raven. So here we go, Mulligan.
so it is the anything can happen mode.
It is indeed,
Paladin.
yes.
My favourite deck.
He's got the Doomsayer early on. It's such a vital tool versus Zoolox as well.
Yeah. There we go. We're
There
in game
we
now.
go.
Now
I
here we
can
go.
see what's
So Coin Haunted Creeper looks to be the first play here. Pretty standard first. I mean, there's always the option as well of just one drop and abusive, but when you've got the Haunted Creeper in hand, there's really no need to waste the active.
And there you go. Doomsayer comes down immediately because it just limits the... Look at
Sottle's face, like, fair enough.
The thing is, yes, okay, it limits him playing anything else, but he immediately gets 2 1/1s and he can just tap for free now.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe he's saving it till turn 3.
I think it was a little bit ham, kind of.
But what
Against
else
the
could you
Zoolock,
do?
there's going to be a lot more on board. That you could use
I
that
actually
later.
think you could have played the Wild Pyromancer.
The thing with the Pyromancer is it's key for
For the
clearing
equality,
the
yeah.
board, for the
but you've
equality.
got 2 consecrations in hand as well, right?
You do, but I mean, not everything on the board's not going to be 2 health.
Yeah, but
I mean, a lot
equality
of it is.
equality
Oh yeah,
consecrate,
of course. Just having more options does help.
Yeah, I completely agree, but you are getting to the point where it's a 4 mana clear for Wild Pyromancer equality, it's a 6 mana clear for Consecrate equality. When you get to these later stages, the mana values of a Secret Paladin, you actually don't care as long as you clear the board. I think playing the Wild Pyromancer meant he could try and deal with the Haunted Creeper, or he could have dealt with a 2-drop that came down. I think doing that is actually it actually just gave Sottle a little bit more power on board straight up here.
And the Voidwalker, probably a good choice here. Some would say, I know a lot of people like to get the Soulfire in hand just to have that extra 4 damage, and apparently so does.
I think the issue with picking either the Flame Wake, the Flame Imp, or the Voidwalker is that your board becomes kind of weak to Consecration then. And your board is already pretty weak to Consecration, right? So
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Consecrate come down.
yeah, because it's all about clearing board as Paladin. He's also picked up the Antique Heal bot too, so...
And similar to the Freeze Mage, what you see from Murloc Paladin is you just try and survive with constant removal and stalls. And we saw Raven do it earlier with the Freeze Mage, so it shows that he's kind of quite talented when it comes to using these decks.
I mean, the Consecrate comes out again.
A little chuckle there from Sottle.
That now brings up the question of what happens later on in the game, because you mentioned how later on, from the Paladin's perspective, you just want to clear no matter what. Well, there's actually only really one massive board clear remaining in terms of
I feel like he's blown his load pretty early, man.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to bring to the table.
I mean, he can fish for the equality. Oh, well, there's another
there's
one
your
now.
equality.
You've got your Wild Pyromancer equality. That's
Zoo is just going to
that's
throw
kind of the
minions.
last remaining now.
Exactly. Zoo is just going to throw minions at you, right? And you've used your 2 big board clears on pretty small boards.
Unless he's running 2 Pyromancers and 2 equalities. I've seen that run before.
Oh, for sure.
So that's technically another 2.
You're still digging that for that in like 22 cards, right? He's lucky that he's got one in hand
Yeah.
already.
And my main concern right now would be that I have not drawn a Murloc yet. As a Murloc Paladin, I haven't played a Murloc.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
You really like to have that Bluegill Warrior to provide board control early on, especially versus Zoo.
And now,
Well.
this is the situation. The board is starting to get a bit bigger.
You've used 2 consecrations. You
Yeah.
really don't want to equality Wild Pyromancer this board.
You don't, because it's even though it's a large board, it's quite a weak board.
Exactly.
It's only doing, what, 7 damage? You want to save it for something bigger when the Zoo kind of really comes to play and really pushes a lot
Those
more
Sea
control.
Giants that come through, maybe the Doomguard if Sottle is running that version of the deck. There we go. If he plays that is a good equality.
Yeah,
Wild
that's
Pyromancer
the
equality
point
board.
where you have to do the equality Pyromancer, because, I mean, what option remains other than that? But that is going to clear your own board as well.
Do you commit that much as Sottle at this point? Do you feel like you need to overextend that much?
Well, he's seen both Consecrates, so he's going to know that there is the possibility of a Wild Pyromancer equality. But can you pass up a 2-mana Sea Giant? I mean, even less if you play another minion.
I think that's too greedy. It just, in my opinion, I think it's too greedy.
I think it's a matter of, like, win more. It's like you already
yeah.
have complete board control. You could even just play, like, a Direwolf just for the sake of being able to do slightly more. I mean, you don't have a necessity for the Sea Giant on board right now.
You're going to win right now because you're forcing your opponent to make the decision between whether I want to clear a board of 1/1s, and you're just going to slowly chip away at him turn after turn.
See another Pyromancer coming into the hand of Ravens. That's another removal opportunity if he gets the equality. But I like the Imp Gang boss play, because if there is removal here, it will still leave 2 1/1s on board.
And then that does provide some element of reduction in cost of your Sea Giant. There's the Doomsayer.
The thing with Doomsayer in this deck is, when do you play it? Like, he played it at the start, so it's guaranteed to clear because you know that the Doomsayer can't be taken down. But if you play it now, you know it can be cleared. So is it just essentially like an Ice Barrier, in that someone's just going to run 7 damage into it to kind of just clear it off the board?
I mean, we know that Sottle's got the Silence, right? I mean, what else in this deck are you going to use the Silence for?
In a Murloc Paladin, yeah. Not much, really, is the answer that you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, do you hear just Abusive Sergeant one of your tokens into the 3/3, that clear the other one up with your Void Walker and just continue to go face?
I think you've got to.
I still don't like.
He's obviously worried about the equality because he's still not played that Sea Giant.
Okay, here we go.
He's thinking about it now.
This is going to walk straight into the Equality Pyromancer.
And then once the Equality Pyromancer is played, the thing is, Raven's got nothing to kind of put onto the board to follow that. He doesn't have any Murlocs.
This is the key thing, because Raven, so far, he's just been on the back foot. He's not really had much to actually get any aggression out, and we're getting to a point now where you've got Leroy Power Overwhelming in the hand still of Sottle. Like, he's actually starting to get to the point where he's looking towards endgame.
Basically, I think what Sottle has done last turn is he played another Imp Gank boss. He thought, okay, I'm going to try and bait this board clear out of him. He said it didn't happen that turn. Okay, well, now I just go for it, right?
And he does get the old Murkai off the top, so that is a follow-up play. He can play this equality, and then he can drop the old Murkai onto the board.
Yes. And that's a card you kind of have to deal with, right?
And because the board was full, only one was spawned from the Imp Gang boss, which is important because it means that he gets full board clear there.
I think this is a difficult situation for Sottle because he doesn't really have a lot of sticky minions to throw down. He's already used both Imp Gang bosses. One of his Implosions has already been used. Realistically, you don't want to use Leroy because it goes immediately down to this.
To the 1/1s that it spawns even.
Exactly. And you're not searching for lethal right now. Maybe you just play on curve Bran Bronzebeard. I'd tap first for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you tap here? You know that anything can happen, even if it is in the hand. It can't do anything right now.
On curve Gormok, maybe? I don't know.
So when what, an
Like a Bran
on-curve
Gormok.
Bran into an on-curve Gormok?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer the play he's doing, but you've got to be searching for answers. Maybe he's hoping that he gets. I mean, he's got Bran, right? So that's 8 damage from Gormok if he manages to proc the tokens. I don't think that this Direwolf Alpha is going to survive, however.
The Solemn Vigil coming in does mean that you can draw 2 extra cards, start looking for some more of those Murlocs. But at the moment, it's not looking great. The Sludge Belcher is actually quite good, but he does go for the True Silver Champion instead to get rid of the Bran. We know that the Bran has a lot of things that can kind of really hurt you if you can do it twice.
And this is my issue with overcommitting to the board against a Murloc Paladin. You know that he's got loads of cards sat in hand that he hasn't played. You're going to be thinking that this is almost undoubtedly going to be... It's almost undoubtedly going to be clear, right? Because he's not played them otherwise.
I like the Doomsayer here.
Yeah, I do as well. It's really stifling the options for Sottle.
Because, yes, okay, he can tap and start looking for even more answers, but... I mean, what do? You can't clear this Doomsayer. You could silence it, maybe, and then put more on board, but your board's still not looking great. Argus is going to be quite a good draw for him, though.
He can silence it for sure.
He is going to silence,
and then he can Argus up. He's going to flame him, and then
so he's going to use the Gormok.
He's going to use the Gormok, okay. That makes a lot of sense. But then you're hoping and praying for another non-equality, essentially. Non-equality. I mean, he's just seen one used. What's the likelihood of it happening?
I was going to say, I don't think he's spraying too hard, because, I mean, there's still a large amount of cards. I can actually check how many cards are remaining in this deck. 13 cards left, so...
But top decked.
Well, there it is. I don't know what the odds were, but I mean...
Oh, Munch strikes again.
I'm sorry.
How many times have you done that today?
That's pretty much every single top deck, I think.
And the face of Sottle says it all, really.
But that is all of his. That's all of his.
That's all 4 clears
That's
gone.
all 4 clears gone, right?
But I mean, what other board is there to clear right now?
Yeah, what a time to clear it. I mean, Sottle's not really got much left.
He can't tap.
He can't get past that Belcher with his Leroy, so what can he do? I mean, he's only got 11 health left. If he taps, he's down to 9. He knows that the Anything will only bring 1 old Murkai.
He's dead next turn, right? So, oh no, he's not dead next turn.
Well, if he taps, he is.
Yeah, if he taps, he's dead next turn, right? Because Anything can happen, can come through that gives you Murkai
Just
with 2.
1 Murkai, yeah.
Yeah, with 2 damage, it's a charge, and you've got 7 damage in hand. So if the tap comes through, he's dead. And he's just going to go for the 9 mana Sea Giant.
Yeah.
But I think this is just going to be face from Raven at this point. Yeah, I would just go face.
Yeah, you've got another True Silver now, so...
And he can change
Exactly.
with the Peacekeeper as well. I think this is looking really good for Raven, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ties this one up now. I can't see any outs.
Well, there's no
Twisting Nether has to come out right now.
If only people played.
Even that doesn't save him because Twisting Nether doesn't get rid of
You've still got to deal with the weapon, but...
So this is an anything that can happen deck. Anything that happen deck that is won purely through board presence without having to use anything can happen.
Just the amount of removal. I mean, we questioned the consecrations early on, but he drew the pyromancers, he drew the equalities, and against Zoo having that much board clear, it's just massive. And it's
I think you go for the honourable seppuku here, right?
There it is. It's going to stab himself in the chest with the flame imp.
And it's going into the wire between these two, and it's exactly what we wanted, I think.
Fantastic second series, and I mean, we were saying beforehand, it's a tricky one to call. You guys both kind of lent the way of Sottle, but so far 2-2, and we're on to our last remaining decks. I am actually just going to check what the last remaining
I
decks
want
are.
to point out that I feel like that was potentially lost with the overcommitting of the board. When he had a pretty strong board, a lot of those you can buff up with Power Overwhelming. I would have even commended potentially playing Leroy onto that board and just searching for the damage, right? Yeah. You put the Sea Giant on board and suddenly it becomes a target. It just becomes a target for board clear, right?
I mean, you were right though. He waited a turn. He didn't play it, and he just put the Imp Gang boss. He kind of tried to invite that board clear. When it didn't arrive, he probably thought, okay, maybe he's not got that board clear.
But then what cards would he have had in hand? That's what you have to ask yourself when you're in that situation.
I mean, when you're against Murloc Paladin, pretty much everything is board clear.
Yeah, exactly. So you know that if he's not played any of those hands, that's not a Sludge Belcher. It's maybe not a Doomsayer because he hasn't played it yet, or he's not. So what else has he got there? Maybe like 2 anything can happen. He's not played any Murlocs, so it's not going to be any of the Murlocs because those instantly get played in an anything can happen deck because you want them to die. So you're thinking it can only really be the board clear. So I think with the board he had, it wasn't strong enough to be a huge threat that turn. This is the thing, you're playing mind games with your opponent at this point. You say, I've got some 2-4s and some 1-1s and a 1-3 on the board, right? Not particularly threatening, don't worry about me, I'm just going to slowly chip damage down. And then you throw the Sea Giant on and suddenly you're like, okay, I need to do something about this right now, because that Sea Giant's there, I need to deal with it. When you have the board he had previously, he could have just kept going and then surprised him with the Leroy, because he may not have thought, no idea if that's in his deck or not. You sometimes can be surprised, but
I think it might have been a matter of kind of when he was playing the Sea Giant, it was like, okay, last turn there was no clear, there isn't any clear in hand. I think that was the thought process that went through. But anyway, we're into our fifth and final game. It is going to be Hunter up against Warlock as our last
I'm convinced they're in the
matchup
same
here.
room. It looks so similar. Maybe they're in a room.
Well,
it looks like
certainly
it looks like they're in
painted
a
the same
child
It looks like they're at
hospital of some
school.
sort. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I'm
a
not
school.
sure. What is
Because
going on there?
behind Raven's head, he's got,
It's
be careful.
isn't it?
Stop the fall before the fall stops you, or something like that.
and then there's some sort of hospital signs behind Sottle. So anyway.
I'm not sure. But here we go. The Mulligan is underway.
What do you feel about this matchup, Dan? I personally feel that Face Hunter is always favoured against really any type of Warlock, unless you're talking about some power overwhelming shenanigans, because realistically the Warlock's going to want to tap.
Well, I think those explosive traps are going to be key as well.
Yes,
Having the Mad
yeah.
Scientist early on is going to be great. He can play that turn 2, and then instantly anything that's pretty much on the board early on from the zoo is usually of 2 health, so it's probably going to be taken down. But he's going to put some early pressure there, though. That could be 5 damage to face next turn, so
This is trying to protect. This is basically protecting his Flame Imp, right?
Yeah.
But we know that that's going to be an explosive trap, so this board's just going to die. But
So you could silence.
you could silence. And that, again, what else are you going to silence in a Hunter deck? I think this is a very clever silence.
Yeah.
And you
Aside, you maybe silence a Sludge Belcher later if that's in the deck. Depends.
It's Face Hunter. I don't. Unlikely that they end up playing it. And is he going to trade here, or is he just going to? Yeah, he is.
I mean,
trade.
we have seen it's more of like a hybrid kind of Hunter, but
Yeah.
it's on the kind of end of the spectrum of face. But so you never know. There could have been
Honestly, when I looked at the list, it was Face with Dr. Boom and Loethep. So
because they're too massive, and you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah. So what 2 cards can I add to the end of this deck? Dr. Boom, yeah, okay. Lothar, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like 2 cards that you can kind of just throw in and be like, this is going to be a solid card no matter the situation.
in the word of Reynard, it's like, why you've got to play these cards because they're just good cards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what's sad? When Standard Play comes out, both of those cards are going to be taken out of play.
I like that though. because-
I don't think that's a bad thing.
No,
because
I'm
they've been
glad
so
to see that kind of Standard format is going to completely
Look at
change the
Sottle's
game.
face. He's saying, okay, you've just given me a mana crystal and you've gone face with your arcane golem. Okay.
But that says a lot, though, just pushing even more damage. I think Raven is saying, I've got enough damage in hand to kind of take you out. I don't really care what you've got on board. I'll give you the extra mana.
Yeah, he's not going to play Implosion here because, well, at least not anytime soon, because that plays straight into Unleash the Hounds, right?
Yeah, I seem to always do that on ladder.
Would you just, I don't know, would you Leroy, face, Unleash the Hounds next turn, hoping that you're not going to get
I mean,
killed
you've got
in that
what?
time?
So you've got to start worrying about this
So you've
Warlock
got
board,
8,
though.
you've got 8 damage in hand right now, right? That takes him down to 15. That means you're going to give a board of about the size 5. That means Unleash the Hound is going to give you 5 damage to face, assuming no Defender of Argos. That takes him down to 10. Then you've got double kill command in hand, which is 10 damage.
With the Hounds.
With the Hounds,
Yeah.
right? Plus the hero powers you can work in.
I mean, there's a lot of damage there, but I think Raven is concerned
About this
this board.
juggler. Yeah.
And I don't blame him. I mean, 2 Imp Gang bosses plus a Juggler is always kind of a frightful sight because it can really do some damage.
And there's a Defender of Argos
Oh,
anyway.
it's
It's
So.
a massive draw there. He's
Yeah.
going to tap
obviously
first,
tap. Yeah.
which is good. I like. Sottle's one of these players that will say always tap first. If you tap last and he's casting you, he'd be like, he would absolutely rip you to pieces. So I'm glad that he did tap first because otherwise I was going to go ham.
Well, I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Say you draw something that's just awful at the end of your turn.
This feels horrible for a face hunter. You've just used both of your direct damage spells to clear the board, right?
But you have to.
Exactly. Right now, Sottle is in huge lead.
It just looks
And
confused by
Gormok is there, and he can play Gormok next turn for an extra 4 damage, and that's game, is it?
And
not?
look, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. It's game.
That's game.
Literally game
Yeah,
right now.
that's it.
Well
Yeah.
played. That was over quickly.
What is I don't know what Salt's really thinking about here. I think he's just double checking, triple counting, which is good. But there, that's going to be the game, and I think Raven knows it. He's got his hand on his head there. Little smile, and what a fantastic series from these two. I mean, it was the game I was really looking forward to. And yet they're in the same room. And that's why they've kept these composed faces. And they were like, it's like playing on LAN against each other. That's an interesting matchup for us to see today.
Yeah, absolutely. But somewhat of an anticlimactic ending to that series, I feel. I mean, the